And when we can go protein free, animal protein free for a couple of days, it just gives your body a break. It gives your metabolism a break. It gives your digestion a break. It doesn't work as hard. Hi, I'm Maria, otherwise known as the Fit Foodie. I'm a chef, holistic nutritionist, author, inventor, and mom. And I want to welcome you to my podcast. It's called Recipes for Your Best Life. And with every episode, I'm peeling back the onion on fitness, nutrition, health, wellness, and family. The truth is, you're the chef of your life. And for every important pillar, there's a great recipe worth sharing. So every week, we'll explore them together. Think of it as food for thought that you can really sink your teeth into. So join me, and let's squeeze the joy out of this life, because you only get one. Can I get a fork, yeah? Could our treatment of animals be the cause of COVID-19? Well, it's a loaded question that has had the interwebs raging with opinions as emotionally charged as a political debate. But I'll tell you, I'm not surprised. I actually made the same comment to my husband when it all got started. Just look at the facts. Farm-raised seafood have a 90 to 95% incidence of contracting lice because of cramped, filthy quarters. CAFO farms keep cows so tightly packed together, it's hard to imagine that they wouldn't easily transfer disease between each other on an everyday basis. And chickens can be even worse, with zoonotic bacteria like Salmonella, Listeria, Campylobacter, and E. coli from them that are commonplace, and they can make you incredibly ill and even kill you. And don't even get me started on the now infamous wet markets of China. Here's the deal. COVID-19 is zoonotic. I reported about this back when the disease was first getting started. Zoonotic means it can transmit from animals to humans. And when you look at the causes of many major diseases of recent years, they have been zoonotic, meaning that their origin is in animals and they can be transmitted from one to another. That includes avian flu, Ebola, HIV, swine flu, SARS, and many others. And these all arose in humans after infections from other species. Zoonotic diseases happen when humans and animals are near each other. Common activities include human-animal interaction, like farming, hunting, ranching, and keeping animals as pets. Human-animal contact is heightened when humans encroach on wild lands. I mean, just think about it. Those little critters that are running through farmlands, and that's generally the cause of contamination, especially when you're talking about fresh produce. Listen, I am not a vegan, okay? I'm just going to come out and say it. So I am definitely not in the camp saying that we need to completely eliminate the consumption and contact with animals. But there have been documented epidemics by various strains of animal contracted disease and flu for the past century. I mean, it's something we need to take a look at. The 1918 flu infected over a quarter of the world's population and killed over 50 million people. That's a whole hell of a lot of people. And it was caused by an H1N1 virus that historians say likely originated in a Kansas chicken farm. An H1N1 strain that reached pandemic levels in the US and Mexico in 2009. I remember this so clearly because it was just when I was starting my business. Likely had its origins in the pig populations of both countries too. Ebola and HIV, which transferred to humans from primates like chimpanzees and gorillas, were discovered in regions of sub-Saharan Africa where communities were near primate populations. And many zoonotic diseases are the result of human farming. You know, it's one of those things that when you look at pandemic diseases, and you look especially at what's taken place in the last 100 years, we need to understand that this relationship that we have with animals, whether we're eating them or raising them or coming into contact with them are creating catastrophic disease. Now, there are a handful of foodborne diseases that you can only get from eating undercooked meats. So like, for example, if you eat undercooked pork or raw pork, or you eat undercooked chicken or raw chicken, you will be at risk for getting those diseases that are associated with those animals. But if you cook them thoroughly, to the kill point, which is different depending on that product. With turkey and chicken, it needs to be at an internal temperature of at least 165 degrees at the thickest point. Then you're in a better position to prevent getting sick. And of course, if you stopped eating pork or chicken altogether, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But our proximity to animals and contact with the animals is also something that we need to take a look at. Have you ever wondered, is rinsing my produce with the water that comes out of the sink that I don't even drink enough to really clean it? Well, then you're one of the smartest people I know, because you're absolutely right. It's not enough. That's why we created the only all-natural and patented line of food wash and wipes, and it's called Eat Cleaner. It's tasteless, odorless, and lab tested, and it removes up to 99.9% of the residue that water can't, including pesticides, wax, soil, and junk that can carry bacteria that can really make you sick. Plus, we formulated it to help extend the shelf life of your fresh produce too, and that'll save you money. When your berries are lasting up to 10-12 days, you know that's a good thing. It helps your produce last up to 5 times longer using a natural blend of fruit acids and antioxidants. So there's no chemicals. It's just clean eating fun. And this can help save your family an average of over $500 per year. Make it easy on yourself, reduce waste, and get that fruit and veggies into your body, where it's going to do you a lot of good and not in the trash. Check us out, eatcleaner.com, or head to our Amazon store at amazon.com/eatcleaner. Now, consuming less animal products in general is a good idea. It's a good idea for our health, for the environment's health. And when you look at COVID-19 specifically, it is very much traced to the wet markets of Wuhan, China. As much as we don't want to come out and talk about it and pinpoint it to a certain geography, it's time that we face the facts and we really understand how these diseases are starting and getting transmitted. There's a lot of potential contamination in the wet markets in general because let me just say that it's not the really clean environment, to put it lightly. People are eating things that they probably shouldn't be eating that can contract horrible diseases from, like bats, for example, and other animals that are coming to the surface that are suspect, like an animal called the pangolin. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Pangolin. It's also called a scaly anteater. It's considered a delicacy, just like bats are in some Asian countries, and it's illegally traded, but it can be a hotbed for disease. Wet markets are also places where you can buy live animals, and anytime you're buying live animals and they're stacked up on top of each other in that kind of environment, it is very conducive to cross-species disease transfer. And that's exactly what's happening in most of the farming that's occurring in the US. CAFOs, the chicken farms where they're just stacked up on top of each other, the farm-raised seafood market where all of these fish are swimming in close proximity. The water is not right. They're not eating the right food. They're transmitting disease because of that close proximity. It is endemic in our now meat-eating culture. Now, it's impossible at this point to determine whether COVID-19 would have arisen without the existence of the wet markets or settings like it. But it's true. that such markets supply the conditions for those diseases to arise and infect humans. And it's doing the same thing in how we raise the animals that we eat on a regular basis. SARS, otherwise known as severe acute respiratory syndrome, resulted from a virus transferring from bats to cats and then to humans. It was discovered in 2003. SARS originated at a wet market similar to what is now the suspect of the origin of COVID-19. We are not unfamiliar, friends. We are not unfamiliar. For 100 years, we have seen this happening. But are we making the proper, are we making the steps? Are we properly educating people? It doesn't seem like it. Now, there are practices that have been implemented, and I'm really familiar with these because this is the world that I've lived in my business for over a decade. With livestock, for example, the USDA has implemented pathogen-reducing treatments like chlorine and paracetic acid and many other treatments, lactic acid treatments, for example, to clean the livestock before it's processed. But the truth is, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Not every single carcass and animal is properly documented or inspected. There is a lot that's happening across borders. We are getting food from all over the world, and less than 0.5% of those imports is actually inspected. Now, reducing human contact with animals, eating less animals, taking proper steps are all ways that we can take matters into our own hands. And I can tell you firsthand, because of what I do in the world of fresh produce, the transmission of E. coli, salmonella, and listeria are not because of the produce. It's because of the fecal matter from animals. It's the runoff. It is the random bird flying over the field. It's the dirty hands that are picking and packing produce in the fields and not going through proper food safety and food washing practices. So COVID-19 is yet one more wake-up call to our half-asleep society. I say half asleep kindly. We're like walking zombies right now. And I'm sorry if this is coming across as harsh, but if our food supply and our industry is not going to stand up for us, we had better do it for ourselves. So you better believe that food is probably the cause of the mess that we're in. And until the farms do the right thing and we do the right thing, it's just going to proliferate because we are trying to feed so many more people. Well, here are some of the things that we can do to take matters into our own hands. And I'm just going to say it, you got to wash your produce. That produce that can be contaminated with E. coli, salmonella, and listeria cannot just get a casual rinse under the sink. It needs to be washed with a product that can cut through that surface. Cut through the surface tension, chelate bacteria and the residue that water can't, and remove it. Because the truth is, we're eating a lot of salads. We're drinking a lot of raw juices. And there is no kill step when it comes to eating raw produce. So you got to wash it properly. I mean, what do we clean with water alone? Friends, nothing. It's not clean. It's called a rinse. And I don't know about you, but after what's happened, I would never take a chance. Not even with the pre-wash stuff, because most of that is just using a little bit of chlorine in a whole lot of water. And that's not cleaning. So wash your produce thoroughly with Eat Cleaner is number one. Number two is eat less animal protein or cut it out completely. For those of you out there listening going, hell if she's going to tell me to cut protein from animal out. I get it, because I eat it too. But I will say you can cut down. And I talk about it in my book, in detail. There's a whole